No, I love that Skype song.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that Skype song
it's
is
a
pretty
banger.
cool. Absolutely, it's got a really, it's got like a mamba to it or something. I don't
Like a
know.
vibraphone or
I don't know. Yeah, like
marimba. Yeah,
marimba. That's it, mamba.
yeah,
Mamba, like a black mamba, like a really deadly venomous snake.
yeah. That's it.
Yeah, but no, I like
uh,
anytime I'm so unfamiliar with like I like that kind of music, bossa nova or whatever it is. I mean, I don't even know how I would describe it, but like I'm so unfamiliar with the instruments that
yeah,
I just like call it whatever comes to my mind.
I just call it all calypso. That's
Yeah, there you go. Although it's interesting though, this may or may not be relaid, but this week I actually discovered that I particularly like a lot of dub music.
oh yeah,
Like I
nice.
never did before. I always dismissed it as like kind of like I almost put it in the same category as like jam bands or something in my mind. I don't know why.
So well, yeah, that makes sense because okay, so this is a common feeling that I have,
Yeah.
and that is that something can be awesome, and then its fans, the fans of the thing,
Oh,
just
absolutely.
are make
Yes.
it terrible.
Yep.
So yeah, like I would say that dub has been sort of co-opted by I don't know, hippies. Yeah, we can just say it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean,
bunch of damn hippies.
I think that that's kind of the thing, but like I discovered it actually because I was listening to a interview with Sam McFeeters. Are you familiar with him?
Uh-uh,
Uh,
no.
he used to be the singer of Born Against, and he also did Men's Recovery Project.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was describing it like in the interview. He described dub music as music that you like. At first, he said it was creepy. Like he said, a lot of dub is creepy. Like once you get past like the sort of like upbeat reggae part of it, you know.
Sure.
And then he
Hmm.
described it, and this is what intrigued me. He described it as music that sounds like you should be robbing a warehouse to. And I was
Oh,
like,
I can see that.
and I was like,
Yeah.
you know, and then I listened to it, and I'm like, you know, he's right. There's like a dark, like there is a bunch of that sort of like sunshiny reggae sort of, you know, in
Right.
dub, but then there's like this dark avenue. This like you turn into like a different neighborhood of like the dark dub, and
Yeah.
it sounds like spy music.
For sure. Yeah, I can hear that. It makes a huge difference. Like once you kind of dive into it a little bit, like the goal of like kind of okay. So I personally would separate this into three kind of categories. If it were up to me, I'm sure it's completely wrong, and anyone listening who's really into dub will call me an asshole. But I've always thought as like there's kind of like traditional dub, and that's like oh, I don't know, Scratch Lee Perry and like the Scientist
Sure.
and stuff like that. And then there's sort of like techno dub, you know,
Yeah.
that's essentially dance music with a lot of delay and maybe like a fat bass. And then there's sort of like reggae dub, which is basically reggae with those added dub elements.
Yeah.
So to me, the kind of traditional dub is where I had to listen to that stuff to be like, oh shit, dub is actually super amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, um, and it's funny, you know Sean Reed, right? From
Absolutely.
Muscatine.
Yes.
He's way beyond way into dub, and if you ever want kind of like constant recommendations, his Instagram is called Digital Sting,
Yeah. No, I
and
follow I follow him on IG.
it's phenomenal. Between him and this artist called The Bug,
Uh
who
huh.
is one of my favorite. He's kind of like uh, super glitchy noise dub.
Yeah, that's not the Savage Young Tater Bug, is it?
No,
Okay.
no, he just goes by the Bug.
Okay.
He was associated with that Alec Empire, like Atari Teenage Riot.
Oh wow,
guy.
yeah.
And so it has a lot of those elements to it, like there's just that extreme noise. But he's probably my favorite. What you would maybe call a dub artist.
Huh.
But between the Bugs Instagram and Sean Reed's Instagram, like I can't even keep up with all the awesome dub recs.
Yeah,
so,
I saw that he does the DJ thing, like Feel Free Hi-Fi.
Yeah.
And it seems
I think they're putting out a record, or they just did.
Yeah, and it seems he's kind of retired the whole Night People thing.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think Wet Hair is pretty much done. I know they put out a last album. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's not a last album. But I know the last album he didn't put it out on Night People. It actually came out on a different label. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Sean Reed is. I didn't really know Sean Reed like that well. I mean, he was in my grade, so we actually had a lot of classes together.
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting because the memory that I have of Sean Reed, and if there is a chance that he's listening to this, I think there's actually probably a small chance, but I don't know. Maybe he'll stumble upon it, one of these days.
Have all those new followers, and they'll be like, "Well, we heard on Dan and Eric, we need to follow you for dub recs."
Dude, they talk about milk Sprite. They mix milk with Sprite and then drink it. It's amazing.
The W's drink of all.
The
official drink of dub.
The official drink of dub. Oh my god, dude! I gotta get employed by Sprite because I really do not think
milk.
Or milk, one of the two. They really are missing a market here. Like they really could be, literally. Like they could be marketing to people like Sean and that Bug guy,
They could, yeah.
Milk Sprite for the dub fans.
I was just thinking, you've seen Clockwork Orange, right?
Oh yeah, a long time ago.
The Droogs, Alex and his Droogs, go to the milk bar and drink milk. Right?
Oh yes, I do remember that. Yep.
So we should just make Milk Sprite and market it as the official Clockwork Orange milk drink.
There you go.
Yeah, because everyone wants to be like those abusive, violent rapists.
That's an interesting. That could be an interesting segue. I didn't even finish my story about Sean Reed, but no. At this point, I don't have to because
I won that.
Well, no, but that would have been the perfect segue into what I believe we were going to talk about this week, which was cancel culture. Like what would be canceled? Because Clockwork Orange, I could totally see. But okay, well, just to make a long story short, the thing I remember about Sean Reed is that he was a really exceptional visual artist. I mean, I remember being completely jealous of everything that he would draw in art class because it was just he made it seem effortless. And then I remember he learned how to play guitar, I think in 10th grade or something, and started a couple of bands, they were like pop punk bands in high school, and then all of a sudden it was really just like a light flipped, and he just went from a hardcore pop punk fan playing in bands like that to all of a sudden he's doing these weird psychedelic tapes on his own label. It was really Sean Reed is one of the most interesting, from all the people that grew up around the music scene that I, was kind of around. Like I said, I didn't really hang out with Sean Reed. I didn't really know him that well, other than in passing. But he was definitely one of the most interesting, for sure. Hold on a second here, Eric. Okay, so I don't know if that "Hold On, Eric" got recorded, but I don't care.
Okay.
It'll just make it really interesting. My dad had to come in and ask a question. Maybe I should have just let it record and just, record the conversation with my dad, too.
There you go.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, Sean Reed, though, one of the most interesting situations as far as like local Muscatine music, because it's almost like he came from Muscatine, but like it's like he really is so like he got so far removed from the Muscatine, scene, like to the point where he was like touring like Australia and stuff like that. Like it was, and then also just the progression that he went from like, like pop punk emo type stuff to like the weird psychedelic stuff that I was even like, and me, I've always been into like kind of weird music, but even some of the stuff that he was digging up, I was like, wow, this is just strange. Like this is really strange and really interesting, and like Raccoon, I still can't wrap my head around what Raccoon was doing exactly as a band.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. Like I'd never really seen or heard anything like it,
Right. I was always real jealous of Sean for numerous reasons, but I do think I might have some insight into that mystery moment you were talking about, where
mystery
he went
moment?
from one thing to another.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he was in school at UNI in Cedar Falls when I think, basically when Old Scratch was around. Old Scratch Revival Singers. I actually think everyone knows what the hell I'm talking about. And so we were in sort of the same cliques. It was kind of weird. And I think that he met a lot of people up there, and a lot of people that listen to a lot of different things. And so I honestly think that's all it was being exposed to other things through other people, which happens when you expand or even kind of find a new peer group and friend group and things like that. And I mean, when you go to art school, I mean, come on.
You're gonna
meet a lot of people that are into some weird shit.
You are absolutely.
Yeah, it was a really cool time to be up there. And actually, it sort of spans a couple different periods for me. The tail end of Gimpy to the beginning of Old Scratch Revival Singers. I think Sean and I were in sort of similar realms at that point, and there were just a lot of people that were interconnected and really cool. Like Noah Doley, I don't know if you know him.
No.
He actually played in Old Scratch for a while, but he's an amazing visual artist, and him and Sean went to school together. And so, like, there was that sort of, like, connection between us. And then there was the FSU house.
I do remember that.
The FUK house.
Yeah, because of some, like, East Coast, like, hardcore gang, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
FSU crew.
I remember that. That was crazy.
And, yeah. So, and I think Sean, or at least some of his close friends, lived at that house, and we all spent a lot of time there. Nick, the drummer from Old Scratch, lived there too. So it was kind of like we were around each other a lot, and so it was really cool. Looking back, one of the things I was jealous of was that they got to do whatever they wanted, whereas I had sort of painted myself into a corner with this band where it was like, well, you can do whatever you want as long as it sounds like the 1930s.
Well,
kind of stupid.
How much? I guess I was kind of unaware. How much of Old Scratch Revival Singers was like Brooks's vision versus like your vision? Because I remember like you played like. Sorry, I don't want to turn this into an interview, Eric, but like I was just curious because like I guess I always automatically assumed, and maybe wrongly, that Old Scratch was kind of like Brooks's, because Brooks was already kind of doing that, like, you know what I mean, before Gimpy, with, like, you know, some of his, even like his early like solo stuff and the Heart Attacks and stuff like that, which I guess you played in the Heart Attacks too, didn't you, for a while?
Right.
So like,
so Old Scratch was directly
it was
an offshoot of the Heart Attacks.
How much?
It was three members of the Heart Attacks.
So how much of the Old Scratch was like how much of that am I getting wrong?
Well, I mean, I have a hard time, like, I don't know how to say it, tooting my own horn or whatever. But basically what happened was, I had written a song called The Patience of Job, which was more of a gospel song. Brooks had written a song called Sing My Funeral Song for the Heart Attacks, which we had recorded a demo of on a Heart Attacks recording. And then actually what happened was Nick from the Heart Attacks and I recorded a version of Sing My Funeral Song and this other song, Patience of Job. And then I came up with the name, basically, I guess the concept. But I mean, the impetus of an idea is not the execution of an idea. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, no,
and so
absolutely.
Brooks was automatically, instantly involved. His wife at the time, Rebecca. Basically, those were the four founding members: is Brooks, Rebecca, Nick, and myself. And everyone instantly added some element of it, and it became a collective. You know, and so I would say, as far as writing duties, probably about half and half between Brooks and I.
Okay.
As far as the songs go.
Okay.
Even as we continued, and even on the second album, which no one will ever hear. So.
you guys streamed that for like a brief period of time, didn't you?
Yeah, we released the first quarter or something.
Yeah.
Like maybe 3 of the songs.
Yeah.
3 or 4 of the songs.
I remember hearing that. Interesting. I guess for some reason, I was always under the impression, from the outside looking in, that like Old Scratch was like Brooks's project, and he just kind of had like people like you know, he just kind of asked people to play like his songs or something. You know what I mean? Like that's always what I thought. But that's interesting. I never. I mean, I know that you did vocals, but I guess I just didn't. I didn't know how much of a hand you had in writing the material for Old Scratch. That's
yeah. I would say about half and half. But then also, we also wrote and arranged everything together too. Like, the idea of who writes a song to me is who wrote the words, the chord progression, and the melody. That's the writer of the song.
Right.
Now, if there's a break or people write their own parts that they play on it or whatever, like, that's a different thing. That's a collective sort of arrangement at that point. So to say, oh, I wrote a bunch of the songs, it's like, yeah, but so did other people. And, you know, like Nick wrote a lot of things. And we wrote a lot of things together, like split 3 ways completely, you know? It's hard to just break it down. I think that's why in anything we've done, we've just said all songs written by the Old Scratch Revival singers, because, you know, trying to separate it out, I don't know, not like it would cause animosity between us. We're all really good friends, but there's just no reason really to split hairs anyway, you know?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you know, you guys are all a collective, you know what I mean? Like, might as well just give the credit to Old Scratch Revival singers. It's like, at the end of the day, why does it matter, you know? But that's yeah, that's interesting. I never knew that. Okay, so now that I'm done with my interview,
let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. There is one thing that we totally forgot to do. The hi, I'm Dan. Hi, I'm Erik. intro. And
Wanna
it's
do it now?
20 minutes in. So maybe that could kind of be
We'll
like
just say it now, and then you cut it out and put it in the beginning.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I mean, you could leave in this part where we're talking about it, and
Editing.
then just have a hard cut,
No, actually, I should
and
just
then it'll
like.
be the next part.
What I should do is I should just chop up the entire thing so it doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
and just put everything
Yeah,
in different.
naked lunch it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like 1 minute we're talking about Old Scratch, then we're talking about Dub, and then we're talking about Milk Sprite again, and then we're talking about Old Scratch again.
It's all the same. It's all one and the same.
It's all
I mean,
relative, yeah. No, actually, I think for this episode we should do the intro at the end. That should be like the last thing we do. What do you think?
It sounds great.
All right, so
we're gonna forget. Right?
Yeah.
It's nice to have a plan.
All right, I'm writing it down. Intro at the end. Dude, like I like being prepared. So there we go. Intro at the end. The thing that we were gonna talk about. I don't know. I feel like we had numerous things we were gonna talk about, and the only one that I remember is the whole what would get canceled today.
Sure.
And I don't remember what else we were going to talk about, but I'm probably not even going to go back to the podcast to listen because I know we brought it up. But, canceled today. Well, I guess, the first thing that I want to clarify is, what I want to talk about is what do you think, should we talk about just stuff that we grew up with that we feel would probably not? How do you want to approach it?
Yeah, I think that there are a few ways to approach it. I think we could also kind of even just talk about the idea,
Sure.
I don't know, or we could talk about concepts and things like that, because it is somewhat conceptual, the whole idea of going back in time and finding things that probably would cause people to get in trouble now. Because I don't think people are under the same kind of scrutiny then that they are now.
Absolutely
not.
not.
Only that the world may have become a little more, I don't want to say PC because I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy that runs around going, this world, everyone's so sensitive. No, I think everyone should be way more sensitive. We should all be able to express, you hurt my feelings to everyone in the world, But anyway, but I think we're a little more trained to hear those things or see those things or notice them from people now. And so that's part of it. The world itself is different than the time periods we were talking about. So, that's an element.
Sure.
So we also could easily go through things that are offensive from our favorite artists that should have gotten them canceled.
Well, one of the things that, and me personally, I agree with you that I think people need to be more sensitive. We kind of talked about on the unaired episode about how bullying is a really prime example of that.
Right.
Because bullying led to people really getting hurt both physically and emotionally. A lot, when I was growing up, and nothing seemed to really be really be done about it. But I'm not sure necessarily if I personally agree they should have been canceled. It depends on what it is, I guess. But I view it two ways, Eric. I view it one way. I'm glad in a lot of ways that, like you said, the world is getting a little more mindful of people's feelings. On the other hand, I'm also grateful that I was able to experience growing up in a time that really wasn't like that. Not because
Sure.
I think, oh, it was just so much better back then, because it really wasn't. I mean, in some ways I think it was, but a lot of that is just because of nostalgia, because I'm going back in time to, everyone kind of does it, I think, where it's like, oh man, I remember when I used to be able to go to the mall on a Saturday and actually like stay there, and
Right.
you know what I mean, like just stuff like that. But like so on one hand, I'm also kind of grateful to have been able to grow up in a time when, because I feel like that also kind of contributes to the education of learning from like the younger generation, or people that are more sensitive today. You know what I mean? I view it as like, okay, well, there were a lot of things that I watched and listened to that, really was just offensive and really bad, and would probably get them canceled today. But
Right.
I'm glad to know that I experienced that, so that today when I hear that stuff, I can say that. I can say, well,
Yeah.
we've moved on to a different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Like,
Yeah,
we've moved on to a different, like it actually helps me learn when I go back to just be like, wow, like 11-year-olds were watching this or listening to this in like 1992. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I do. I think the other aspect, and maybe I'm just wrong and old, but it wouldn't be the first time. I don't think my parents sat down and watched Ren and Stimpy with me. I don't think that they listened to the Misfits with me.
My
And
parents.
so,
I'm sorry.
go
My
ahead.
parents actually did watch Ren and Stimpy with me.
Oh, okay.
They didn't listen to my music though. They actually and sorry to interrupt here, Eric, but they actually when the parental advisory sticker first started to appear on records,
Yeah.
they wouldn't let me get like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic because of it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let me get, at first, they wouldn't let me get music that had the parental advisory at first.
Yeah.
And then they just became really lax about it. Like, eventually, I think them and the rest of the world were just like, you know what, these kids are just going to get it anyway.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, what
I
were you saying?
I was just saying that I think that it's kind of different too, because I do think, I'm not a parent, but I know a lot of parents that are my age, and they all kind of grew up in that era, and a lot of them do watch cartoons with their kids, or they do play video games with their kids, or they do listen to the music with their kids, and I don't know how that's impacted things. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, even from an artist point of view, like, I think people creating now know that this isn't going to slide under the radar, probably.
Well, yeah.
To a certain age group, anyway. And so I think that kind of changes things, too, a little bit. Like, I don't think something like the Misfits would have the same kind of cultural impact, because I don't know if they would say the things that they said anyway.
Sure.
I don't know if any of this is making any sense, but it's like even like when Marilyn Manson came out, that was a big controversy, right?
Actually, that was one of the artists that actually came to mind right away after you mentioned Misfits.
Yeah, and so, but even if we look at what they say in Marilyn Manson songs, it's nothing like the Misfits.
No.
Like, it might be smarter. I That's probably debatable, but it's definitely not more offensive, and it's not more like overt. That was
No.
the thing about a lot of stuff that I grew up with, is they just said shit. Like if you listen to like SOD,
Yeah. Yeah.
the Stormtroopers of Death,
Yep.
that's like terrible. I mean, it really is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like,
Well,
like
okay.
even when I was a kid listening to it, I was like, I don't think this is okay. Like I actually don't think this is okay. I laughed about it because I was
Right.
freaking 10 or something.
Right. Right. It's
My parents didn't have much oversight into what I was into, by the way.
No,
If you can't tell from that statement.
No,
I was like 8, just watching The Exorcist, listening to Slayer. I'm like, yeah.
No, dude, my first my first musical obsession was when I was 5 was Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah.
2-3 years
Pretty
later,
edgy.
2-3 years later though, it was Iron Maiden. Like my parents went to Musicland to buy me Live After Death and Somewhere in Time on vinyl.
Nice.
And and then I look back on it. In first grade, I actually had a jean jacket in first grade that had Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue pens and
for sure.
Iron Maiden pens in first grade.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, wow,
cool.
I wonder now I'm like, I wonder what the teachers actually thought.
Oh, yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like it's really interesting. Yeah. One of the most offensive things that I saw I remember watching this when I was, I don't know, Beavis and Butthead came out, I think, when I was like in 7th grade or 8th grade or something. And I used to watch that show religiously. I think pretty much if you were a teenager at that time, you probably did. And
I watched a lot of it. I was quite a bit older than you. I mean, it was like somewhere between my junior and senior year of high school, I believe, when that came out.
Yep. So you would have been, you would have still been a teenager though, just an older teenager.
Right. Right. But I still found it pretty funny.
Well, hell, I mean, as a 40-year-old, I find it hilarious still. But
I haven't seen it since like 1994 or 3 or whatever it was.
Oh, really?
Not on the air anymore. I haven't seen it since.
You didn't see the short-lived reboot that they did, like back in like 2010?
Oh no.
Yeah, they did a.
Was it good?
Yeah, actually, I was really shocked because it basically just felt like they picked up like on the last week's episode in like 1996 or something. It was. The only difference is that since MTV doesn't play music videos, they would play like a few music videos, but they also showed like clips of like Jersey Shore.
That makes sense.
And so that was actually kind of funny. Like I expected it to be dumb, and it's dumb. I mean, anybody who thinks Beavis and Butthead is smart, like it's meant to be dumb. But like. Right. I just thought it was going to be bad, but no, actually it ended up being pretty funny. But there's this episode that got banned, and I remember seeing this episode on TV, like when it actually originally aired. And it's this episode where Beavis and Butthead they go to a gun shop, and when they go into a gun shop, like some fat, like, sort of dude is sitting there and he's all like, "You boys 18?" And like Butthead's like, "No." And then he points to a sign that says like sale on shotgun or something like that. Must be 18. He's like, "You boys 18?" He was encouraging them to lie to him so he could make a sale. Wow. So then they ended up like buying this shotgun, and they go out and like these are 2 teenagers going out and shooting the shotgun, and I think Butthead is the one that's shooting it for the most part. And then Beavis is like, hey, Butthead, let me try it. So he takes it from Butthead, and then he shoots it. And when he shoots it in the air, it hits a plane. And then a plane lands and crashes right in the park where they're shooting this gun off. And they walk up to this plane, and there's like this woman like banging on the window, and she's like, help, oh my God, help us, there's a pregnant woman on board. And then Beavis and Butthead just start laughing. And then Butthead's like, how'd that happen? And like, I'm sitting there watching this, and I just remember like having this moment where I'm like, I remember seeing this episode when I was like 10, and it was like not a big deal. Like, I didn't think about it at all. Like, I just laughed. You know what I mean? And then like, and I'm just like, wow, this is really what they were. I mean, this is really like what was pretty much being marketed to like bored 12-year-olds who are home alone during the summer all week while their parents are at work, and they have the free reign over the TV in 1996, 1995 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example, though, of like, I don't think like that kind of humor would fly today. Pun not intended.
But also, I think it's interesting because would it even be funny now?
Yeah, that is interesting. That's a very
if you
interesting
just had
question.
Thing where there was literally no story,
yeah,
and they were just being violent.
Yeah,
I don't know if that would connect with people now.
Like,
I have no idea.
Like at that time, time it definitely would, because I think like in some ways, I think that I don't know. I don't want to say that like, because I hate putting it like any way that makes it sound like I'm gonna say, well, we were just able to take a joke better back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like I don't really know, but like I feel like those, there's certain issues that just were not, they just were not being talked about in ways that they're being talked about now, that would, it's almost like this mass, what am I trying to say here? Like, it's like this, like this mass, sort of, like the way that issues are being talked about in society affects the way that people are going to respond to art. You know what I mean?
Sure, absolutely.
And so like, that's where I do kind of also get a little bit, I kind of have a tough time when I hear people say that like music and art has absolutely no effect on society whatsoever, because clearly it does. Because at the time that we just talked about Marilyn Manson, at the time that Marilyn Manson was huge, there was a whole like, there was like millions and millions of kids that were dressing like him, and they called themselves Mansonites. You know what I mean? Like, that was the culture then, and that was directly affected by what Marilyn Manson was doing. Just like the culture back then, issues with like, I don't know, like feminism or trans issues and things like that led to like, like Ace Ventura, like parts in Ace Ventura that were really, that I feel would be pretty transphobic, considered transphobic now,
Oh, for sure.
And like, and same with like that Beavis and Butthead episode. Like, we weren't really talking about violence back then. It's the same thing where it's like I was talking about with the bullying. Bullying was, the answer to bullying when I grew up that I remember was tough it out, ignore it, because that person just wants your attention. Well, no, if you ignore a problem,
Right.
it becomes worse, you know? And so
Yeah. Or like fight back or
fight back,
whatever.
or
Yeah.
quit being a crybaby. Like, you would get in trouble half
Right.
the time if you were for being a tattletale, if you went and did what you were told you were supposed to do, which is
Right.
get a member of, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was so fucked.
Find an adult.
Yeah, find an adult. It's like, it was so fucked. You know what I mean? Like, in a lot of ways. And so, like, violence was, I mean, I still think violence is kind of funny sometimes. Like, I'll have to admit, you know what I mean? I still find it funny every time. Like, I still laughed at that episode when I saw that on YouTube, where it was like banned Beavis and
cartoon
Butthead.
Violence is a little different too. I mean, the thing about all of this though is like with the Marilyn Manson thing, it's like they were responding to bullies. Like that was their sort of misguided, irreverent, incendiary way of saying, look, I'm hurt. I'm a hurt, damaged person, and I want to hurt and damage other people because of it.
Right.
You know? And I think that was sort of a new voice, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't completely new, but it was, as far as popular, especially on that grand of a scale, popular music, you didn't really put out songs about specifically going to school and shooting people or hitting them with your lunchbox or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's why everyone was so riled up by it, but also why the kids loved it so much. I mean, as they should.
They should.
Anything that gives you a voice, anything that makes you feel seen or heard, especially when you're young, you're just going to devote your life to it. And luckily, Marilyn Manson knew it was, I mean, I'm talking about Brian Warner, the guy. Mm-hmm. Like, he knew.
Oh, the kid from the Wonder Years.
Yeah, right. But he knew that that he was basically Motley Crue. You know? All he really did was reintroduce the theatrics of heavy metal to a generation. You know? Because we had grunge, and I think Marilyn Manson was a direct response to that, personally. I think it was kind of like, whoa, what happened to having fun and being in costumes and getting people riled up, like Shout at the Devil or whatever, you know?
Right, yeah.
And so I think that's how they saw it. This is like, we're doing this, we write songs about this because obviously that quaint Shout at the Devil shit isn't going to have an impact anymore.
Right.
So we have to talk about abuse and violence and being hurt. You know, a lot of people used that element at the time, even Korn. I mean,
oh yeah.
You know, like that was kind of a thing. Is like you had these groups that gave voice to people that felt damaged, and before that it was kind of just like punk rock, and obviously I love punk rock, but at the same time, not everyone fits in there either. Dirtbags didn't fit into punk rock. You know, people that wore long hair and jean jackets and got high, they didn't really fit in at the punk rock show either. So to give them this voice of, I'm damaged and I want to damage other people and damage this world, they didn't really have that at that moment. And so I think the impact was huge. And I think it was only achieved through the irreverence and offensiveness, you know?
Sure.
And so I think it's great. I think that through art, in the actual construction of the art and the product that comes out of it, I don't think you should put boundaries on yourself. I mean, I think on a personal level, as a person, what you do matters. I think, you know, it's like, if you're a piece of shit person, then I don't think people should probably give you money and support you and buy your records and go to your movies and stuff.
Yeah, but
if the character you're playing is a piece of shit, I don't know. I mean, that's art.
Okay,
tough.
But that is actually one downside that I could say that I've seen with kind of the for lack of a better way to describe it, rise in sensitivity and culture today, is that I do feel that a lot of times, like, and I 100% agree with you. I think that, like, people should be judged more on their character, their actual character, than, you know, like, any sort of art. But the problem is that, like, I feel like people, the boundaries of reality, especially in today's world, where music, like, okay, like, a lot of, like, one of the things about technology that's I'm finding very fascinating today is that sort of line between, like, celebrity and fan is getting blurrier and blurrier by the day. And what I mean is like, now, like, you got, like, people who are, like, you know, influencers on, like, Instagram or, like, YouTube that are, you know, connecting directly with their fans. And so, like, when they, like, do, like, art, I feel like a lot of fans feel that that's just automatically, like, an extension of, like, whatever it is that they feel. So if, like, there's something that came out, I think if Manson came out today, for instance, I think people would, like, kind of, maybe there's a chance that there might be people that would, more people would maybe view it, more the kids would view it as more like, wow, like, you know, that Marilyn Manson is, like, a real character. Like, he's not even, you know what I mean? Like, some people view like, I think, like, the line between, like, what is real in someone's art and what is real in someone's personal life, because of things like social media, it's becoming blurred. You know, it's becoming blurred day by day. And so I think that people, like, when they hear, like, somebody write a song about a certain subject, and if they're actually trying to be offensive, or if whatever they're singing about just happens to be offensive, then a bunch of people say, like, oh my God, like, this person is really this way. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? So that's kind of like, that also is one of the things that I feel is different about, like, when we grew up and now, is that I don't want to call it anonymity, but being able to be a little more mysterious was a lot easier, and in fact, I feel like kind of expected in a lot of artists back then.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great observation. It's like, do I know? Yeah, if you look at someone's social media presence, would you even think that the person that I'm following, the person that is speaking directly to me through this post, like, why would you think that they are playing a character?
Exactly.
You know, like, it is them. It says their name, like, and it does seem like they're speaking directly to you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe that last level of anonymity or separation is part of the reason people are held to higher standards in a way. You know?
Yeah.
Because we really think it's them, not an art, an idea of art or something that they're putting out.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's kind of, I mean, even if, like, somebody is using, like, offensive material for, like, to make a point, you know what I mean? Not because they necessarily believe that that's, you know, like, they don't believe in that, you know what I mean? Believe in whatever it is they're singing about. They're using it to kind of illustrate a point. I feel like more times than not in the past, I'm going to say maybe 7 years, but I'm going to say it's really started to, like, heighten in the past, like, 3 years, where it's really easy to label somebody as a piece of shit It's getting easier and easier to label somebody a piece of shit, not only because of social media, but because of something that they may have, written in a song, or something they may have. I mean, you see it all the time. People like dig up like old, stupid things that somebody may have said like 10 years ago on a Facebook. And then
For sure.
And then it's like, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be held accountable for that, but at the same time, a lot can change in 10 years. And
oh, yeah, a lot can change in 1 year. I mean,
yeah,
you can live a certain way and do things, be a part of things, have it be something that you almost define your life by, and all of a sudden be like, oh my God, I was so wrong. I wish I could take that back, and apologize to every person you know.
dude,
And instantly be changed. And I mean, I've gone through it.
So
and I
have
would
I.
hate to think that people would hold me accountable for things that I did when I was 18 years old. I think,
yeah.
You hope that people change, and you should be ready to give people another chance. But it seems like that's kind of part of the problem, is giving people another chance seems in short supply right now. It seems like if you fuck up and get called out for it, even if you apologize, even if you change, and even if you truly start to understand the impact of what you said or did, sometimes people don't care, and that you're just done.
Yes.
And and I'm not saying that people shouldn't be held accountable, but should they be held accountable for the rest of their lives or the rest of their careers? I don't know. Like I said, I personally fully operate under the grace of second chances with a lot of people.
Yep.
And so I have to be a proponent of giving those second chances, know?
Yep. I'm definitely the same way. But in conclusion, man, the world is fucked up. That's what it always comes down to.
Pretty much.
The world is fucked up, and it's never going to change. And it's good. Well, actually, that is a dangerous statement.
I don't think it holds true.
That is a terrible statement. That's funny as hell. We were just talking about.
Got to see it.
We were just talking about. Well, I just said that a lot can change in like 10 years, and then I'm like, the world's never going to change. It's always going to stay the same.
The world's made up of big truths and little truths,
Yeah.
Will the big ones ever change?
That's
probably not.
You're exactly right there. Oh, geez.
We hope,
Well, and
over time things get better.
I mean, hope is what we're holding on to big time. Like, I feel like right now, I think that's everybody.
I said that to my friend the other day. We were kind of talking back and forth on text, and I said, I actually think things are going to get better. And I was like, that feels so weird for me to say that. Like, I've never felt the need to be optimistic before now. Like, it's never been so bad that I had to convince myself shit was going to get better.
Well, I mean,
It's always kind of been like, I don't know. It'll probably just be the same forever. Who cares? And now it's like, I don't know. I think I truly have to believe it's going to get better.
Well, because
it's not a comfortable feeling for me,
It wasn't that long ago that everything really was just kind of the same every election, the same every, you know what I mean? Like it didn't really like change, and there really was no need to be optimistic. It was just more like, we're living this mundane, boring life every day.
Yeah, right.
Like I get to play music and go work my job. I get to watch old Beavis and Butthead episodes on YouTube. That's my existence. Sometimes maybe I'll travel outside of Iowa. That was the existence up until, well, especially just this year. I mean, obviously with everything going on. But yeah, that's interesting. That's a great way to put it, Eric. I'm the same way. I'm kind of like, it'll get better. I have hope, and it's like, well, fuck, like 10 years ago, I never would have said that. 10 years ago,
No.
I probably would accuse somebody of being a hippie for saying something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
shit, right?
I would have just been like, whatever. Put your tie-dye on.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would have, like, seriously,
Yeah.
like, when I was in my 20s, I really was, like, for whatever reason, like an asshole when it came to, like, hippie type stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
and
I think that we equate misery with enlightenment. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, when you're younger, I think that unless you're struggling and angry and mad, and those are all super valid. Don't get me wrong.
right.
But anyone else who doesn't feel those things, they're just not seeing the truth.
Yeah.
Or they're just ignoring the way shit really is. And it's like, I don't know, maybe like perception is reality. We do sort of invent our own world. And I think as soon as you start to realize that, I think it doesn't make problems go away or actually change the world, but it might give you an insight into how you can make your little part of the world a brighter place.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And so I think being optimistic is fucking lame. Don't get me wrong, but
I think that's hilarious because I kind of
also think that it's valid. So
that's funny
whatever.
because like the only reason why I was saying that was because I was like in my 20s, so I was like I thought that I was like being cool by being some angry like punk rocker or something. It's like now I actually kind of like optimism because it kind of gives me like gives me dreadlocks and sandals and tie-dye t-shirts and Grateful Dead CDs in my collection, like.
Yeah. I think for me, honestly, one of the biggest things that changed was that I felt that how can I say it? Me being accepted wasn't a given anymore. And I think as you get older, you start to realize you're the old fool that everyone is laughing at, just like you laughed at them when you were young.
Absolutely.
And you start to depend on that acceptance, and you want it, but you also realize that it's going to take you being very empathetic and understanding other people and being more accepting of them to earn that acceptance. You don't get to be exclusive anymore when no one wants to be around you anyway. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Here's one of my behaviors when I was like that age. I'm going to say between like the ages of like 18 and like 20, that would have gotten me canceled today. I remember for some reason there was this like, you remember Fazoli's?
Yeah.
And it was there was a Fazoli's in Muscatine. And I remember this one time, me and a friend of mine went into Fazoli's. And we were both like really bitter people at this time, at this stage in our lives. We thought that society was out to get us all the time and stuff.
Yeah.
We came to that conclusion together. And anyway, we go in there and there's like this manager that is working, and he had like just really, really bad like perm type hair, like just really curly, right?
Yeah.
And so we just decided, and I'm not proud of this, so I'm just going to let the listeners know that I'm not. This is a terrible thing I did, and but we we got our food and everything, and we sat down, and the entire time we were eating, we just like laughed about this guy and his appearance, right?
Yeah.
And we just like, and then we got in the car and we then went from like laughing about his appearance to like, we really got to do something about this guy because he's a danger to our lives, sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, sure.
Like we were just like, he's ruining our lives. He's living in our minds. We need to like do something about this. 2 years. Every time we got together for 2 years. That seems like in our car rides to Davenport to watch movies, all we talked about was this guy at Fazoli's that we met one time. Didn't even meet him. He just served us our food. And the way he looked, like, affected our lives that much. It's like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And we had no reason. We were like, I think we were like fucking just like, God, man, we were sick. Like, I just remember just like sitting there just like, what was that dude doing, with his curly hair? Like, for like 2 years. It seemed like 2 years we were just like talking about this guy. And it's like, I look back on that now and I'm just like, wow. Like, being like 18 to 20 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the things that are...
But you didn't actually do anything to that guy.
Oh, hell no. Like, the thing is, we would talk
So
tough.
this is just sort of like the... what's the right word for this? The fetishism of being young.
Well,
I think that when you're young, you create all this stuff. Like, you make religions out of... Like Chuck Moore and I made religions about Frank's kraut juice and cold chicken in a can.
Yeah, you do those types of things.
You know, and so like you do that. You latch on to one person you saw and you make fun of them for 2 years.
Yeah, and we were
I think that's just the way it is.
And we were like, I remember like at one time we were like, just talking, just like, we would say things like, oh, if I ever see him, man, if I see him again, you know what I mean? Like, so absurd, like, thinking back on it.
Being kind of mean.
Yeah, but like the guy didn't even know it. You know what I mean? The guy, the guy had no idea we were talking about him for 2 years.
Right.
Like, that's what's so funny to me. And like, I was just like, I remember like there was this rap song that was really big, like there for a while called Never Scared. Like, and it was this guy who's like, I ain't never scared, like just really dumb. Yeah, he's like, I ain't never scared. And I remember we would like sing that in relation to like the next time we see him. And it's like, well, what would we have anything to be scared about? Jesus. Like, we met the guy once. He was a nice guy. He just had like a really dumb haircut. You know what I mean? Like, that was the only thing. And we spent 2 years plus sang rap songs in his honor.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, but I like the idea.
I don't know. It doesn't sound like bullying to me. It sounds like you almost turned him into a deity. So
yeah, kind of. We were like, dude, but now that I think of it, the idea of having a rap song called Never Scared is pretty hilarious. I ain't never scared. Like, really? You're not scared of anything? I think
I don't know this song at all. I love your version of it.
The rapper's name is Bone Crusher. That makes it even better.
Oh shit!
His name's Bone Crusher, and he's never scared.
And he's never scared.
Never scared.
That's pretty terrifying.
Yeah. No, that's seriously how he's like, I ain't never scared. Like he was like that total like Little John. Like, remember that No Limit Cash Money era of rap?
Yeah.
Where every rapper was sounding like that for a while. Like, and like they would always bring like real like helicopters and choppers on stage and tanks and stuff. Like what? What? I always thought that was funny too. They'd bring like helicopters on stage and with like the Cash Money logo. I didn't really pay attention to I didn't like any of that rap, but I just remember you couldn't help but avoid it for a good couple years, around that time.
Yeah, it was, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so like, we weren't scared of that guy from Fazoli's, so I mean, I guess. Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe we wouldn't have. There would have maybe been no reason for us to get canceled. It's not like we really did anything that terrible, but it was still, yeah. We were never.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, though. It's like you might look back at that and not feel good about it now.
Yeah. Well,
that's probably good though. Like, it'll keep you from doing it again. You know what I mean? Like, remember that time you felt really shitty for that? Next time you go into a restaurant and some dude has curly ass hair, you'll probably just be like, "Oh, thanks for my order, man," and like be done with it.
It would be funny if we like got, because I don't see this friend of mine very often anymore. It'd be funny if we got back together and just started the same thing again in our 40s. Like, just made fun of somebody for 5 years this time. You know, just like...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well...
Anyway, this...
You have to be able to go out to eat. So
yeah, this portion
maybe
of...
sometime in the future.
That's true. That's a good point. Oh, that guy who was wearing a mask. Can you imagine that? But anyway, oh my gosh. Anyway, so yeah, this portion of this episode is going nowhere fast. So I think.
Well, I'm sorry, but I am probably not going to divulge things that probably should have resulted in me being canceled.
Well, yeah.
They still could probably make me get canceled.
No, absolutely. There's actually.
Talk about it. And I've moved on, and it doesn't play any part in my life.
No.
And I'd rather just forget everything wrong I've ever done. So
yeah, I mean, no. The reason why I shared that, is because I just think it was the absurdity of it now. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Like, it's just no. Trust me, there's way worse things that I could talk about. That, yeah, no, absolutely. There's way worse things that I did when I was like in my 20s than that.
Yeah.
No, even
let me just say, I really am sorry, and I've learned and I've changed.
Well, you know,
and
Eric,
thank you for understanding.
you don't have to apologize to me.
That goes out to everyone I've ever met, by the way.
Well,
because I've done something.
I don't think you've ever done anything to me, man, except maybe I just didn't hang out with you enough. I don't know.
Except what? Sorry.
Well, maybe did I say except?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, no, except maybe like what I was gonna say. Maybe you made like a joke or something here and there when we were like hanging out after a show. But the other thing I was gonna say was maybe I just didn't hang out with you enough.
No, if you hung out with me ever, I'm positive I made an inappropriate joke.
Oh wait, no. Actually, that Nickelback thing, that's I guess kind of an example. But that was funny though. I laughed about that.
Well.
Speaking of which, did you listen to Nickelback CDs?
No.
Okay.
No, I forgot.
Well, let me know when you forgot to do our homework for the podcast. I see. All right, Eric, I'm going to hold you accountable.
I think I'll probably forget it definitely.
I'm going to hold you accountable for that. Cancel Eric for Nickelback. Hashtag.
If I got canceled for not listening to
Nickelback,
okay.
Dude, wouldn't that be crazy though? Like if anyway, yeah, we better end this before it gets any longer.
All right.
So all right, now I guess is the time we do the intro.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna leave it at the end, like heck, whatever. Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Eric.